I want to appreciate the members of the team that is here. The principal investigator will soon, he will log in. Once he's here, I will do the needful to recognize him. But I don't think it will be proper to keep the facilitator waiting. So I want to take your permission to record this particular session, this training session. And we want to thank the Royal Academy of Engineering for their support for funding this project with Lord's Foundation. So for today, we have Mrs. Ngozi Omolaye. Ngozi has over 20 years experience spanning events, management, strategy, public relations. She's a corporate communication person. She has published several books. One of them is Beyond the Distant Clouds. I have read that book. It's recommended for each and every one of us. So she has pioneered a lot of setup for marketing units, managed a loyalty club. She has pioneered and developed three company magazines. And I can go on and on and on. And she is the CEO of Bernard Michael Consultancy. So today, we are privileged to have her to share from her robust experience. She will impart in us what she knows. She has been in the field, like I said, for more than 20 years. So Mrs. Ngozi Omolaye, please. I hand over to you now. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Nyadike. Thank you for the opportunity from Engineering Express to be here this evening. I'm really excited. And I know it's in partnership with NYSC. You've got lots of sponsors and collaborating organizations and supporting organizations. So big thank you to all of them. I'm really excited. One, because Professor Nyadike is my sister. I've known her all my life. And NYSC brings great memories for me because I served 1996, probably to 97, a long time ago. So I do remember that time. And I served in Niger State, yes. Suleja. Yeah, so it's a privilege to be here today. I will quickly share my screen and just let me put it out there. I'm glad, I would want more people to be here this evening, but I'm really glad that it's kind of like a small team. So I want you all to be very interactive. So if I put something in the chat, if I ask a question, can you put your answers in the chat? If you want to talk, can you raise your hand? Because it's not about me today. I'm here for you and it's very, very interactive. So get ready, get your pens ready, get your brains thinking. So let's start. I'm going to share my screen now. Just gonna try, oops, sorry. I'm gonna minimize this so I can see my slide. Okay. So yeah, so this is where we are now. I'll just go on to, so today we're going to look at a few things. How did I get here? A little bit about me. We're going to do an icebreaker, and I'm going to talk about the two-way street, verbal communication, written communication, virtual, and then communication channels, and then questions. So let's see what time. Yeah, so it's about 8:16 now. So I'm hoping to just quickly whiz through this for about 20 minutes-ish. And then I want you to ask questions, take part. So like I said, get ready. So so how did I get here today? How? It's everything is back to communication. So right from when I was young, I loved writing. And I always said, oh, I just want to write. I want to write. I want to write. So I made that come true by just writing. I wrote short stories when I was in primary school. When I was in secondary school, I joined the press club. I was the editor of the press club. I was called to do some literary competitions, which I won for the state where I was schooling them back in Cross River State then. Um, so yeah, so I've always like really wanted to write. But then, you know how when you're growing up, they say to you, okay, you need to be a doctor, you need to be an accountant, you need to be a lawyer. I mean, no one ever really said the great things you can do by just writing. And I thought, okay, let me veer off a bit. So I started off in HR recruitment. Of course, that didn't last very long, and I had to caution myself. And I said to myself, okay, what do you want to do with your life? What do you really want to do? And I said, okay, I want to write. And at that time, the only thing that came to my mind, apart from obviously writing the book, was to just go ahead and look for where I could write. So I combed the ad agencies in Lagos, sent my applications to them. Um, Oh, they said, oh, you need experience. I'm saying, and I was like, okay, if you don't give me an opportunity, how can I have experience? So anyway, I didn't give up and I applied to every single advert that had to do with writing. And long and short of it, I got into an aviation company where I started writing for their magazine. So at that point in time, I thought, okay, yes, I do want to write. I do want to change my career quickly. So that was my second job. So I know you're all young people, so it's good for you to start thinking about that. So it's going to be a mixture of comms and a few tips for you. So I just want to say that I got here because of communications, with the desire to write, the desire to, be creative. That's how I got here today. And when I mean here, this platform talking to you, because if I wasn't like doing my communications, I wouldn't be here to speak to you. So I want to encourage you, if you love writing, just go for it. Even if you don't like writing, just, you know, think about what you can do with writing. Think about what you can do with communications, both written, verbal, there are different types which we'll look at. And I'm sure most of you know it. So I'm going to encourage you to take part in that as well. So yeah, just a little bit more about me. Professor Anya Dike has already said a lot. I'm not going to say too much. She has said it all. I'm very passionate about leadership and communications and networking. And I'm glad to be here because I know meeting all of you is a form of networking. She's mentioned I've been in different organizations right back from Nigeria. I worked in telecommunications. I worked for MTN. I worked for then Guarantee Trust Assurance, and then a few other companies before moving to the UK, where I've worked in the local authority, transport sector, financial services, and also the charity sector. What I want to say here is that you should never, limit yourself. There are no barriers at all. I remember when we arrived here about 16 years ago, it was then the highly skilled migrant visa. And when we got here, people said, oh, no, you can't go back to your profession. And I said, why? Why can't I go back into my communications, my corporate comms? Why can't I? What's different? Yes, maybe the press a bit different in Nigeria. I just need to learn a bit more about the press here. I just need to, it's the same writing skills. So why should I change my course of direction? And more so, I got here because of a highly skilled visa, which obviously is highly skilled. So why would I depart from what brought me here in the first place? So I'm just saying this so that if you have any desire to progress in your life or whatever, let no one limit you. No one should limit you. Just make sure you focus. So I got here and I applied for jobs. that had to do with communications. And my first job, 3 months after, was in the press team of a local authority, which is what they call some councils. And to get into those places, from what I heard, is really difficult, but I got in there. And it was pretty much the same thing, good writing skills. And I remember asking the person who interviewed me, I asked him like 2 years down the line, why did you even hire me? He said, oh, because you had great ideas in the interview, and your written skills were great. So I was like, wow, okay. So no limits. And as I progressed, people kept saying, oh, you know what, even in the UK, you can't, as a Black African lady, there's no way you're going to get into their corporate comms teams or press office because you are not from the UK. And I said, well, at some point, I almost believed in that story, but I got back on track. So I'll say I'm still going back to my communications because that's why we're here today. If you keep working at it, you will keep progressing. And I love people, so I have strong interpersonal skills, and I love helping people. That's why I'm here to help you to improve on your communication skills. So get ready now. I'm going to ask you a few questions, or one or two questions, and I want you to put it in the chat. I want to know if you can start by telling me where you're from and where you're based. Can you put that in the chat, please? Are they able to put things in the chat?
Yes, thank
Okay.
you.
So I do want to see at least 12, because I know Professor Anya Dike is here, and myself, so there should be 12 of you. So can I see 12 things in the chat? Because it's not about me today. I just don't want to be talking. Tell me where you've come from. Okay, I can see Nkechinyere, you're from Anambra State and you're based in Lagos. Anybody else? Okay, somebody else. Favor is from Imo State, serving in Kaduna. And you've got Uzo Onya from Enugu, based in Abuja. Anybody else? Julian Ejim from Imo State and based in Lagos. Great. Oladiran Sunday, Sheung, based in Osun State, serving in Enugu. I love this diversity. Nzapota from Anambra, based in Enugu. Oluwasegun. And where are you based, Oluwasegun? Okay, from Kaduna, from Lagos, serving in Kaduna. And then you've got Suleiman Dantani from Borno State, based in Abuja. Great. And then you've got Nimrod from Adamawa, serving in Kaduna. That's amazing. This is great. And I'm loving this so much because we've got diversity. So, which brings me to my next question. So, if you, obviously, we've got Hausa person here, we've got a Yoruba person here, we've got Igbo person here, and a few people, we all speak our different languages, right? How would you feel? I mean, if somebody tried to speak your language and they kept saying it the wrong way, kept saying the words the wrong way. So let's say, for example, this word, I'm going to type this word here. So this word is night, but of course it starts with a K. So imagine if it was your language, right? And somebody else decided to call it Knight. I mean, what is Knight? Knight doesn't mean anything. Nothing. It doesn't mean anything. And we have other words that are, in our different dialects and different languages. So for example, I'm Igbo. I know we have the word egg, aqua. We've got aqua as in what you wear. And then we've got aqua as in crying. So, but it's all AKWA. But then imagine if other people just said it the wrong way. It wouldn't make sense. So my principle is, since we speak English as our lingua franca in Nigeria, if you are communicating in English, you should speak it well. Try as much as possible to speak it well, because it's the same way that you want them to speak Igbo well, Hausa well, Yoruba well, Efik well, and other languages. So your accent has nothing to do with it. So you can keep your Igbo accent beautiful, your Yoruba, your Hausa, whatever accent you have, keep it. But you must learn, for you to communicate well, you must learn to speak it well. And that's what's helped me here. Because when I arrived, I had to speak proper English. So pronounce the words properly. So those are the things you have to consider when you are speaking. So my next question, I'm going to put it in the chat. I don't want to minimize, so I'm going to have to type it all over again. Or I'll just ask the question. So just imagine you had the ability to speak and understand any language instantly. Which language would you choose to learn and why? So I'll ask the question again. Imagine you had the ability to speak and understand any language instantly. Which language would you choose to learn and why? You can just drop it in the chat. For me, anytime, any day for now, I will always choose English because that's what I think in English. But I yeah, so I'll give you the opportunity to write what language you like to speak. And maybe as a second language, I might want to learn how to speak, interestingly, Mandarin. So can I see your different answers in the chat, please? I like that. Yoruba, Swahili, French, because it's romantic. Okay. Any more? So do I want to believe that other people are listening or they're just dreaming away? Because at some point, I might ask one or two of you to unmute. Okay, so Spanish. Just love the way it sounds. Spanish, because it's fun. Okay, fantastic. So think about all of these languages. So can you just imagine, okay, Arabic, yep, perfect. Yes, I would love to. I love Arabic as well. So think about all the languages you've mentioned, right? And, think about how you can learn them and learn it properly. So if you can learn all these languages properly, and then you need to go to a place where they speak English, or even in our country where we speak English, I bet you, if you're able to speak it well, you would advance. If you find yourself in a country that speaks Swahili, Spanish, Arabic, and you speak it well, you see how quickly you would integrate. French, quickly. That's a real, excuse the pun, icebreaker. So if you learn to speak whatever language very well, that's my point. It's your inroad to anywhere you want to go, because some of you may not want to go to an English speaking country. So that's why communication is very important. So that's my first icebreaker. I'll give you another one later. But let's move on because time is going. Okay. So two-way street. So look at the picture now. And that's why I said I want this to be a two-way street. Communication is a two-way street. You cannot have a one-way communication. I mean, we have things like self-talk. So even when you talk to yourself, you answer yourself, right? So if you say, oh, Ngazi, oh gosh, what have you done? And then you answer and said, oh my goodness, what have I done actually? So it's a two-way street. So whenever you're communicating, you have to remember the end game, the other side of it. It must be a two-way thing. It must be clear. Both of you must understand each other, know what you're talking about. So you can't even, that's the foundation for communication. So whether you're talking, you're writing, you're in a virtual meeting, like we are now, the whole idea is to get that is a two-way street. Both of you, or many of you, have to talk to each other. So always bear that in mind. It's a two-way street. Okay, now let's get into today's topic proper. So we'll start with verbal communication. So that is talking. This is made up of, you can be talking face to face or on the telephone. So when you're talking face to face, can anyone give me some, like tips? I know I'm here to give you the tips, but I want to hear from you. When you're talking to someone face to face, what is the first rule? What should you do when you're talking to someone face to face? Any takers in the chat? Can you put your answers in the chat, please? What is the first rule? Yes. So, Nkechinyere, thank you. Maintain eye contact. Because once you don't maintain that eye contact, people just think, oh, you're not confident, which leads to the next suggestion from Julian, who said, speak with confidence. So once you maintain that eye contact, I know that, yes, in some cultures, people are not supposed to look people in the eye. So for that cultural difference, I guess that's fine. But if you are in an interview, if you are talking to someone, you have to maintain eye contact. So that's the first thing. Speak with confidence. You watch the body language. Okay, keep eye contact. Yeah, you're all doing great. You listen actively. Don't be distracted. Example, using your phone during a conversation. That's fun. That's really good. I mean, we are so guilty of doing this all the time. We're guilty of using our phones when we're with people. I mean, it's become a thing now, but it's not right. So you have people visiting you, and instead of you to pay attention to the people who've come to visit you, you're on your phone throughout, which is really distracting. So with the verbal communication, face to face, and when you're on the telephone as well, because you're not seeing that person, you have to be focused still. You can't afford to be distracted. And then we have other ways to communicate verbally, which is the voice and video recording. So some of you might do voiceovers, might want to start doing jingles on the radio. So for you to do that, you also have to project your voice. You have to train yourself to know how to do that properly. And some of you, like Professor Anyadike, might decide to go into lecturing. For you to do that, you must know your you must know your subject, for you to before you can go ahead and start lecturing, talking to people. You have to know your subject. So these are the different ways. So can anyone give me other, suggestions? What else, what other ways can we communicate to each other verbally? Any ideas? Anyone else? No? So this is the only way we can talk to each other face to face. Okay, how about when you're talking and you're in a meeting, which you'll get to very soon, people tend to talk over each other. You have to bear that in mind. You have to take turns, make sure, you know, it's your turn. And that I'm glad, I mean, with COVID and other things, we've been able to manage that on Zoom, on Teams, different channels. So you are all on the right path with your different suggestions. We'll move on since I have no suggestions in the chat. Okay, now let's look at written communication. Let's start with the text and WhatsApp messages. So when way before WhatsApp came up, we had the text messages, and you have people, I mean, abbreviating. So what I would say is, this is my rule. You don't have to take my rule, but what I was told right from the beginning of my career is, if you're going to be in the corporate communications or PR, media, and if that's going to be your line of work, you have to learn not to abbreviate, because now you have so many. I think somebody's unmuted. Can you mute yourself, please? All right, thank you. So you have to, you can't be abbreviating, because you would form that habit of abbreviating everything and shortening everything and having acronyms for different things. I remember when my daughter, during COVID, my daughter was they were doing online studies, online school, and she was chatting to her friend, not to her teacher, but the teachers can check the chats on the platform. And she said IDK. And the teacher, who obviously had no clue what IDK was, wanted to, give her some form of punishment for saying IDK to her friend. He thought it was not a good word. He thought probably it was a swear word. And we had to step in and say, this is I don't know. So can you imagine in a world where we're all doing IDKs and BRBs, and there's so many of them, at some point I have to ask what is this, So but if you're going to, for your text messages, and it's okay, but if you are in communications, you really have to watch it. And then the terrible thing with being a serial abbreviator or a serial acronym writer is that you might mistakenly form the habit and take it into your emails and subsequently application letters. So I'll come to that in a minute. Just give me 1 minute. So yeah, so if you form the habit of writing your words in full, then that will be very helpful when you're in the office and when you're writing anything. So before we go ahead, can you quickly let's just have a 30 seconds break. Put put in the chat some of the abbreviations and acronyms that you use to chat. So the one, I'm trying to think of, okay, so this is mine. Can you put some of your abbreviations? Okay, LOL. I remember when we were growing up, LOL was lots of love, but then some people say it's laughing out loud. Okay, the LMAO, that one is now a bit weird now because of the A part of it. So, you know, be right back. What is SMH? You see, what is SMH? Can anyone tell me? You can raise your hand, and I can't see the screen. So what is SMH? Sigh. Okay. Can you look at shake my head? Ah, okay. TBVH. Oh my goodness. What is IMO? I don't even know. What is IMO? That's to show you how far removed I am from these abbreviations. But it's good to know as well, just for you to, for knowledge sake, for you to know. In my opinion, oh wow, you see? So can you imagine taking all of this FYI, IMO, POV, oh gosh, WAGMI, oh my goodness, there are lots of it. So imagine you just have that floating in your head all the time, and you take it into your emails in the office. Big, big fail. Big fail. So just be cautious of that. With your friends, try, keep it to your text messages and WhatsApp messages, but please do not take it to the emails when you start work, or even some of you are already working as youth coppers. So do not move it onto your emails or even to your application letters. And even these days, people are reaching out to people on WhatsApp, on Facebook, on LinkedIn. So be very careful when you're replying on LinkedIn and on Facebook or wherever you're writing. Just make sure you write in full and you check your grammar properly. So there's a time and place for everything. So if you're writing your emails, just remember the format. I mean, I'm hoping at some point I can come back to this platform, and then depending on what you want to focus on, we can look at probably how to write proper emails, how to write application letters. I mean, here in this country, you write cover letters, and it's just like you just go on and on with cover letters. So, but I'm just saying, with emails in the office, you can't. I've worked in places where the young people, some of them, they start work and they start the hi or hello or dear with a lowercase. That's a no-no. You can't start hi with a lowercase hi. No. Or dear with a lowercase d. No. So that's not even, you can't do that. Then even in your application letters, you have to know the rules of dear sir, ma, everything about it. That's a story for another day. So I'm really, really, I can't stand those abbreviations, and it's not acceptable in offices. So bear that in mind. So in your written communications, you have to be really careful. Select your words. If you're in doubt, Google is there. Check Google to make sure you're using the words in the right way. And then your thesis, which some of you have written already, and some of you are going to go on to be a professor like Professor Anya Dike. You're going to be do your master's, your PhD. And if you want to go beyond your country, whether it's an English speaking country, French speaking, Arabic, wherever, you have to know how to write properly, because that's that's going to make you stand out. So don't get into that habit of saying, oh, after all, English is not my first language, but that's what you need to progress. That's what you need to progress. So pay attention to that. And of course, you know, if you're planning to write a book, is very important. And then websites. Some of you may be working, you may have websites, or you have to populate the website. So you have to also know how to write properly on the websites, blogs, and well, newspapers now, most of them have gone online, but there's still a few newspapers as well. So these are all different styles that we can focus on a bit more later at some point. I'll move on. So thank you for all your abbreviation and acronym. Hold on. Okay. So let's look at the virtual communication, which is what we're doing now. I don't know how many of you use video calls, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, and with this, you're all doing great because you've muted yourselves. You have all been responding to my requests. So with virtual communication, that's a bit some with COVID. I think we've just had the overload of virtual communication, but it's necessary. That's what has saved the world in the past few years. So when you come on to a virtual call and you have to put your camera on, and I think you have to find out the rule of the house, but most offices ask you to put your camera on. So can you just imagine you're in a meeting, and can you be invisible in a meeting if you're there in person, face to face? Can you be invisible? No, you can't. So you need to just follow the etiquettes of virtual communication. So when you're on screen and you have to be presentable, I know that, COVID time, people had different, ideas. We came on with their pajamas. I don't know, but I never did. So for me, the rule, because right now I still do like hybrid, sometimes 2 days at home, 3 days in the office, clients' offices, as a contractor, different places I work. So the rule, which it might sound a bit funny, and I know we're very good at this in Nigeria, we love to jump in the shower or get our buckets and take a bath. So if you're doing virtual communication at home, make sure you get ready as you would if you were going out, because it gives you, it's something it does to your brain. It just, it just makes you're ready to, to go. And then you must be presentable, you know, presentable the way you like to present yourself. So you have to be presentable. And because the people are there virtually, so it depends on what you're doing. Um if you're talking to people, you have to make it as engaging as possible, which you all know. And you have to also make it animated so that people can, engage. And speaking of engagement, I hope you're writing down your questions, your suggestions. At the end, I would love some of you to raise up your hands and talk and contribute as well. So it's not just me talking. Okay, so we'll move on. So now the communication channels, you've got your social media. So let's go back to our chats. I want to know your favorite social media platform. Can I have some things in the chat, please? Your favorite social media platform. I will tell you mine quickly. I'm leading by example. Can I see yours? Facebook, Twitter. It's not Twitter, X, TikTok. Okay. X. Okay, WhatsApp. That's it. People tend to forget that WhatsApp is social media. They're like, oh, I'm not on Facebook. I don't do social media, but they're WhatsApp 247. X and WhatsApp. Okay. Okay, interesting. All good, but guess what? I'm the only one who has chosen LinkedIn. Okay. Um, so if you want to get into the professional world and you want to reach out to the decision makers, I know Twitter also does that as well. Twitter is really good with decision makers. They like short and sharp. But then also, if you want like to be an influencer in that sense, and you're looking for a job, which I know most of you will start to do that in, I don't know what stage you're in your NYC, but in a few months' time, few weeks' time, whenever it is, you're going to look for a job. And of course, LinkedIn was originally created for people who are looking for jobs, but now is an inspirational platform, is a platform where people, share ideas and, on a very professional level. So I would encourage you, if you're not on LinkedIn, to go and create a LinkedIn page today. And when you go on there, it has to be professional. So all these platforms you've mentioned, I'm going to go through them. They're all there for a reason. So LinkedIn, obviously, you're reaching certain types of professionals. So you have to write in a certain way on LinkedIn. You cannot, I mean, I'm not, LinkedIn it is evolved now. So people talk about their families a bit, they talk about the personal life, because yeah, when you show up at work, you show up as you. But then is the angle at which, in which you share that information about your spouse or your parents in this case, or your friend or whatever. So it's the angle. So you have to change the angle. You can't just come and say, oh, look at my lovely dress today, or look at my wristwatch, or see my phone, or the whole thing you do on Instagram and TikTok. There's a place for everything. So if you're on LinkedIn, you have to make it professional. So that message you want to send out on LinkedIn, it has to be professional. When you get to Facebook, a bit less professional, but you still have to be careful what you say. And I'll just say something here quickly about being careful what you say. One rule I learned a long time, my husband started off as a journalist and he moved on to TV and radio. But the first rule that they taught him is what you don't want anyone else to see, do not write it. So sometimes there's some things I want to discuss, and I'll ask the person, tell me when you be free so that I can call you. Because I mean, I know people can record things, but normally not a lot of people have time to record anything when you're talking to them. So if what you don't want anybody else to see or say against you or put it back in your face in the days of social media, and even before social media, when people had notes, they have put people in trouble. So if you take away anything today, do not write down what you cannot defend, what you don't want anybody else to know. Do not write it down. Say it verbally. So remember, today is about written, verbal, and virtual. So then Facebook, and then we've got Twitter, which is short and sharp. TikTok, fantastic for doing your videos. And then you've got WhatsApp. People are using it for business. So even on those platforms, you have to, make your messaging clear and on point. Instagram with your videos on WhatsApp. So the different channels you've mentioned them all, which is great. And then your website, radio, TV. So there are so many other channels that we can we can all communicate on. So many channels. So I want you to promise me, and I'm going to look out for you all, and you look out for me on LinkedIn. I want you to create your LinkedIn profiles and look for me and ask me for a connection. So I will look at your LinkedIn profile when you create it. And when you do send me the request, make sure you add a message if possible. Send it to me, and then I will show you, I will say, okay, this is how you should do it. So make sure on LinkedIn, I know you're all just starting out, but even if you've sold bread, if you've sold pepper, there's a way to package it, and sales executive or whatever you want to call yourself, but you package it properly, because every experience counts. I remember going for an interview, and the person, it sounds a bit bizarre, but he said, oh, so can you give me an example of how you've managed money? And I said, yeah, I headed up a marketing department before, and I had a budget. And, this is how I managed it. I allocated things to different, from advertising, for then newspaper, for different things. And he said to me, oh, you know what? I would have preferred if you had told me how you managed your money at home as a wife. And I thought, oh, okay, fine. That was a bit too much, but it was just to show that even if you're managing your money at home, or managing your money for your friend or for your parents, it's still a skill. So no skill is wasted. So think about that. Think about, what you're going to put on your LinkedIn profile, and make sure it matches with what you have on your CV. Just think about the things you're doing today as you're serving. What is it? Write out those skills, because when I started off, it was the experiences I got from my NYSC that I put on my CV, because there was obviously no experience. And then growing up, my brother and I, and even other family friends, we were helping out in our mother's shop, and we put all of that as part of our experience when they talk to you in your interview. So think about all of this. But then going back to these social media platforms, when you're on them, be careful what you say, and say it properly. I still not the place for abbreviations. Keep your abbreviations to you, between yourself and your friends. And if you're in the communications world, do not carry it to that point unless you're working as a pidgin English expert in BBC Nigeria. Okay. So thanks for your comments on the different social media platforms. Yes, we've come to questions. So I want to see all those hands flying. I want to see those hands. I'm going to stop sharing for a second so that I can see your hands. Questions, suggestions, ideas, over to you. You can type it in the chat as well. Like I said, today is not all about me. I want to hear from you. That's the only way I would know that you're here.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you very much. That was a very wonderful presentation, and thank you for the modern way you relate to our corporate experience because you went to exactly what we are dealing with, especially with the social media, with the letter writing. My question, so thank you very much. My question is, and by the way, I have followed you on LinkedIn.
Oh,
So
okay, great. I'll look out for you.
and I've said I'm trying to send you a message. They wouldn't let me send you a message. They say I
Okay,
should
because you
stay
don't
in
know
touch.
me. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So
Uzo Onya, I'll look out for you.
yes, please. And
Okay,
then I'll be expecting your feedback on my LinkedIn page.
no
how
problem.
to make it look good. Okay. My question is this, ma'am. Um, you said something about eye contact, the physical communication, the verbal one, and there's this cultural thing about the eye contact. I understand that in the UK and all the developed society, that looking someone in the eye is very, very critical when you are trying to communicate. But in most places in Africa, when you look at a senior person in the eye, it is seen as being disrespectful. And my question is, how do we juggle between, because the world is now a global village,
Mhm.
and whether you like it or not, culture plays a part in what we do, like our behavioral pattern. When we get accustomed to things, it follows us. Sometimes you forget that you are now in a different platform, and then you start continue to be a Nigerian. So how do you say we juggle these things and strike the right balance? Thank you, ma.
Thank you, Uzo. Very good question. And I like that because that is one big challenge. So, I mean, when I was in Nigeria, I mean, I've worked, it's always been the corporate world for me. And in those environments, you have to look people in the eye. There's no room for you to, try not to look at people in the eye. And I know it's a thing in Nigeria, but when you have to kind of switch you have to be intentional, be able to, just think about where you are. So you have to be different things for different people at different times. But since we are talking about like the corporate world now and moving ahead, so when you get into that corporate world, even if it's a radio station, TV station, bank, wherever, multinationals, from my experience, I've been in all these places, you look people in the eye. But you must remember that. So, of course, if you now go to visit your grandma in the village or your uncle in your village or, someone, and you have to, I mean, even with that, I mean, we were encouraged to look our parents in the eye, but if you have to do that, then you just respect them. So when it's time for that, you keep the respect to give respect to whom respect is due to. But if you are, like you've talked about it being a global village, you have to remember that. So I'll give you another example. When, of course, we're very respectful in Nigeria, and I respect people no matter what. Nobody's ever going to take that away from me, respect. So, but the thing is, when you bring that into the corporate world, especially in other countries that are not Nigeria, let's say here in the UK, US, other places, if you take, you will, you, of course, there's a hierarchy. You give respect to whom respect is due, but there's a way, the way we respect people in Nigeria, that's not what it is in other places. So you have to remember that, because at some point it will look as if you're patronizing someone, or you're trying to, they can't even understand what you're trying to do. So I had to learn that and say, okay, yeah, because everybody, you're even if you're the CEO or you're the director, you're all equals when you come to the work environment, especially abroad. And even when I was in Nigeria and some of the places I worked, the multinationals, everybody was first name basis. There's no Masa, there's no our chief exec. Then I'll just say then MT and Adrian. Oh, yeah, Adrian. That's it. So you have to know where you are. I mean, whereas there's some other organizations, if you walk in there, they might say, okay, we do Mr. and Mrs. here, then you follow the Mr. and Mrs. if that's what they want in the organization back in Nigeria. But abroad and here, no, there's no Mr., Mrs., Chief, whatever. Your name is your name. Yeah, we respect when you're talking about respect, it's about being courteous, making sure you don't speak badly to someone, respectful, not, bowing down and prostrating and all of that. No. So to your question, we have to strike that balance. When you go back to your home, when you go to your village, you visit your grandma, your grandpa, your aunties, your uncles, you keep that. When you come to the corporate world, you know where you're going. If you're going to the ministry of whatever and what they do, they call each other Alaji, Mr. Chief, whatever. Call them Alaji, Mr. Chief. If in that place they're going to is Ngozi, Chichi, Chinonso, Olatunde, Barua, all of them, you do that. So, but you must know where you're going to. But I'll say, keep your confidence. Be confident no matter what. I hope that's answered your question.
Very much, very much. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Okay, you're welcome.
There's someone raising their hand. They can ask before I ask the next question.
Okay, so okay, you go next, and then after that, I'll look in the chat to see what people have put in the chat. So go ahead and ask your question.
Okay.
I mean,
My next...
no, sorry, somebody raised. You said somebody raised their hands. I can't see
Yes,
any.
ma'am. One Julian Ejim raised hand, so maybe they can go
Okay,
then.
Julian, go ahead. Are you there, Julian?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I wanted to ask, thank you for the lectures actually. It was really nice and interactive. Um, Getting into a new social media app is kind of confusing sometimes and it looks strange. What
Sorry,
I wanted to
I
ask is
didn't hear that. You said getting into what? Sorry?
getting into like a new social media app most
Okay.
times is very confusing. It looks like getting into a new place because every algorithm is different. And I've tried LinkedIn. I won't lie, I really did not understand much of it. So I wanted to know if there are tips you could, give out for majority of us that are still starting new because it's like a new playground. It's not somewhere we're familiar with, but you speak of it as if it's something you're really, really familiar with. So are there any tips you can give to any of us that are just starting out new?
Okay, first of all, I'll say go and look at my LinkedIn profile. I know it's a lot of, I've got lots of experiences because I do contract roles. So I go in and out of offices. But then if you just look at it, and then I've got my business, which is kind of like at the top. So yours might just be one or two experiences. Just make sure you write them properly. And then what you need to do, you need to follow people who are who of interest to you. So for example, one of my biggest fans, you'd be shocked, is Tony Elumelu. I follow Tony Elumelu on LinkedIn. So every post, anything that he posts, I'll see it and I'll like it. And the thing about it is people who are also people who are connected to you. It's not like Facebook is kind of like your feed and all of that, but on LinkedIn, anybody who is connected to you, when you like Tony's post, they'll see that Ngozi has liked Tony's post. When you like Richard Branson is another person I follow, they'll see you've liked Richard Branson's post. So it's very good because you learn a lot. You learn about the world. It's like if you want that corporate global perspective, because you see Tony is what one today he's in Dubai, next day he's in France creating something, he's in one African country. So it inspires you, inspires me as an entrepreneur and a business person, even as a career person to do other things. So it's really important. So the first thing is create your profile, even if it's one or two experiences. Second thing is look for the people who inspire you, follow them, look for them and follow them. Follow organizations that you want to work in. So if it's media, if it's radio, follow BBC, or if it's bank, follow the banks, big icons, look for them, whoever you want to follow in Nigeria and the world, follow them, because some of them you might not be able to connect with them because they've obviously gone over. I think LinkedIn is about, I'm not sure how many thousands, maybe 10,000 or 50,000, I can't remember, I think 50,000, then after that, then you have to follow people. So that's my advice. Create your profile. Well, start by connecting with me. Then I'll check and see if your profile is good to go. And then look for the other people you like to connect with. So even on this platform, follow Professor Anya DK. She's on LinkedIn. Yeah, follow the people who have sponsored this event. Look for them. They might be on LinkedIn and follow them. Does that help? Julian? I don't know if you're there, Julian.
Yes, it does. It does. Thank you very much. I was trying
Okay.
to unmute my mic.
All right. Okay. Uzo, I'll come back to you because I know there's something in the chat and the person put it at 1 minute past 9. So question is, what are possible icebreakers in an official setting? Example, an interview or a sales pitch. You know what? Like I say, Google is my best friend. But with there's some really common icebreakers like, oh, where do you see yourself in 5 years, which is sometimes a bit annoying sometimes because because if you say you see yourself as whatever and it's not in line with what the company plans, then they would just say this person is not for us. So in that official setting, if you go for an interview, to be honest, the person interviewing you should be the one breaking the ice, but not you. But when you go for the interview, make sure you research the company very well. Look for questions, about the company. Ask them questions at the end of it all. I don't want to believe that. I don't know, but maybe you've all had different experiences that if you walk into an interview panel, they would, yeah, of course, your good morning, how are you? Look them in the eye, shake their hands if some of them might not want you to, but if you can. So at that point, they should be the one making you feel comfortable. It's not your duty to make them feel comfortable in an interview. So if you're the one interviewing people, you should try and help them feel comfortable. One of the things, I hope you found it okay getting here. So if you're the one interviewing, I hope it wasn't too difficult for you to get here. How is your day? Just normal stuff with that. And then sales pitch, that's a different ball game entirely. I'm not a salesperson, but it's still just giving that personal touch, being a human being, asking people, okay, what are your interests? What do you like to do? So someone might say, I like traveling, and it depends on what you're selling, or somebody might just say, oh, I like sailing, or I like cooking, or I like, and then you're saying, oh, okay, I have this perfect item for you. And then let's say you go for a networking event, you just start chatting about normal things. You don't just go in and say, oh, what do you do, just start talk to each other, find out what you know different things. Just ask about the person's day, and from there you can find out other things. So like I said, Google is my best friend, but you can never go wrong with the human aspect of it. So that's from Engineering Express. I hope that's answered your question. What's my name on LinkedIn? Okay, somebody has answered. Ngozi Omolaye. Don't forget the I in it. All right. Any other person before Uzo comes back with his second question? I'm looking. How many of us? We're supposed to be about 20 of us on the call. Well, let's say 18. Anybody else? Okay, Uzo, go ahead with your next question.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Don't worry, I have enough for all of them if they're not asking. Okay, my next question, ma'am, is as from your experience so far, what can you say is the corporate communication differences that you've experienced between Nigeria and UK or the rest of the global communities? Like, what is the difference? The reason why I ask this question is that many of us are working remotely now, and we are working for corporate organization, and we are living in Nigeria. So how do we so that we can have this experience and then also learn from what you have experienced, that is a major difference between the two communities?
Okay, I would say, every culture is different. I mean, I'll say one of the things I miss about the Nigerian corporate world is, that our culture, how I'm trying to find a word, where we have, I mean, you've got teams that are really friendly, but that whole, like empathy and being warm, asking about your family, with genuine interest, and that fun, the joke, just cracking some jokes that is really interesting. I watched one video on them on, I think it was Instagram or somewhere, and it was just saying the office in the UK and office in Nigeria. And, I know sometimes we can take it a bit too far sometimes, how people just tease, oh girl, you too fat, that, of course, you can't even afford to do that abroad. That is a no-no. You don't talk about people's sizes and whatever. No, it's a no-no. So, but that just be the cracking jokes. I like that. I miss that. But that's not to say we don't have it here. So it's about understanding the culture. So the first thing, you need to understand the culture of whichever country it is. So, but because you're talking specifically about corporate communications, everything I've talked about today, making sure you are pronouncing your words the right way, speaking, not, remember, it has nothing to do with your accent. We all have accents. Everybody has an accent. So it's not about your accent. It's about how you pronounce the words. It's about how you write, your grammar. You have to pay attention to that. And you have to show up. So for me, and I mean, we all have a different personality, so I can't ask you to be my clone or make you ask you to be me. But if I go into any organization, I try to learn about them. So I've learned about the British culture and integrate. So you have to integrate. So you have to find out what the people do. So if when expats come to Nigeria, they don't just sit in their corner. They want to learn a bit more about us. I mean, I've worked with a few of them back in the different organizations in Nigeria. A couple of them came to my house, so they wanted to know how you live. They wanted to know, about your food. So likewise, if you're going to another country, you need to learn about their culture. You need to know how, what happens there, because you're integrating. So if you're working remotely with the Japanese, the Chinese, the Americans, and the British, you need to know. So you can't just go on of course you won't go to a meeting and just say, oh boy, how now? You have to know what they say. Hi mate, or is it hi buddy, or whatever it is. You have to learn. So, and you also need to know how to ask questions. You also need to know what the culture is, and if, like I mentioned before, if they're all about saying someone is a chief, go with it. If it's about, since we're talking about foreign countries, then yeah, you just be yourself and be confident and say, oh, hi Jake, oh, how are you doing? Oh, hi Bill, what's happening today? You just learn the culture. I think that's very important. The culture of each of the organizations and the culture of the company is very important. You be yourself, but if you just need to know how to operate in the different workplaces. So I hope that's helped, but just feel free, ask me whatever you want to ask and drill it down a bit more if you want to.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't know whether there is any other question from the house. Otherwise, I can go on with further questions.
Go on. If any other hand
Until
goes
you're
up,
fired.
if I see anything in the chat, I'll let you know. But at
Okay,
some point, yeah.
I think
Julian's
Julian is
hand
up.
is up.
Yes.
Okay, go
Hand
on,
is up,
Julian.
Julian.
Okay, I can't see. I don't know why, but Julian, go on.
Um, you spoke about written communication, which I think is really important in this modern world because of social media, emails, and all of that. I wanted to know if you have any tips on, how we can get started on that. If there are resource materials you could recommend, you should look up or whatever it is, just to ease our transition into the corporate world in terms of written communication, emails, and some other stuff.
Okay, fantastic. So I don't know if you've heard the saying, if you want to write well, read. So I just want to know how many people here like reading? Who are the readers in the house? Can I see any hands, any voices, any chats? Who are the readers in the house? If you want to write well, the first thing is you need to read. That's how your brain works. If you don't have the words in your brain, there's no way you're going to write. So, I mean, I need to get on to writing some other books. And if I'm not reading, then I will not be able to write. And my day job is just about is writing. And if you don't have the words, you can't write. So the first step, go back to reading. Read different books. Read if it's fiction you like, find a good fiction book. If it's people's biographies, if it's self-help, read. Oh, Julian reads. Fantastic. So you're on the right path. Read. And if you're able to go for any courses, please do that as well. There's so many courses online, so many. So you can start with any course, and it's just about practice. Practice makes perfect. You have to keep at it. So to be honest, if you keep reading and if you go for any of those courses, you do well. And you know what's really helped me as well? And I like reading, but then I have a friend who likes to watch movies. And I thought, oh my gosh, you're going to take me away from my reading and everything. But so I'm encouraging you to read, but if you're not a great reader, but please read, look for movies that, you know, there's some movies that would inspire you. And, the way the English is spoken there would also help you. So look at those drama series, those just for, I mean, you might not like it, but that would help you because when you watch it, what you watch as well goes into your brain and then you can write. But I'll say reading, take courses that will help you with your writing. It helps. I have taken loads of courses, loads. If you go to my LinkedIn, you're going to see the different courses I've done if you have the patience to scroll through. So you have to you have to keep developing yourself. Self-improvement is very important. So yeah, I'm so happy you can read, Julian. I hope that answered your question. Engineering express, how can you improve your communication if you have a natural disadvantage like stammering or a mother tongue interference? Like I said, let's look at the mother tongue interference, which is your accent. Your accent will remain with you, but it's how you pronounce your words. So I'll give you an example. So there's a word that I don't know if many of us say it in Nigeria, but that word is conservative, right? But we say conservative. So you have to just know how to pronounce it properly. So you have to that's why I'm saying if you're going to watch some movies or whatever, you have to because I remember when I arrived and I was in the press office and the journalist called me and he was asking me about what party, something about the ruling party or something. And I said, conservative. I don't know how I even said it, conservative or something. He was like, what? So it's conservative. So there are some words you just look it up and you go to Google. Google will tell you how to pronounce it properly. So that mother tongue will be there. So you can have your accent, but you just say the word properly. Just say it properly. That's where the mother tongue interference. That's how you can conquer that. Then in terms of stammering, I think there's some stammering. If you look within you, I think I had some cousins and some people I knew in the past who used to stammer, and sometimes it could just be something. It could be fear. It could be something that happened to the person in the past, and they're afraid. But sometimes stammering, you have to also sometimes you have to seek some medical help, to or speech therapy. So let me not call it medical help. Speech therapy to help you come out of it. But if you look deep within, you might find out that it could just be a fear. And we're not all experts. We still get butterflies, and I still get butterflies in my tummy. I had this big speaking engagement not too long ago, and I was like, oh my goodness, I'm going to talk to these people. Whoa, how am I going to get through? But if you know what you're going to talk about, if if you just have that confidence, you will be able to do it. So for someone who has a severe stammering problem, I think they would need to just try and get some speech therapy. And then if you're just scared, just keep practicing, keep doing it. And like I say, do it afraid. I don't know if you've seen that statement recently, do it afraid. So your voice should always be heard, no matter how it sounds. Just speak. Show up, do it afraid. So I hope Engineering Express, I hope that's helped. Any other questions so we can round up? It's almost 9:30. Any other questions before I give you my other icebreaker?
Yes, please. I have.
Okay, is
I'm
that
here.
Ozo again?
Yes, please. Pardon me.
Okay.
I'm learning a lot from you. And while I was on your page on LinkedIn, I noticed that you were a communication manager at different top places. So I'm going to ask one question again, but that's
Okay.
not the last one, please. So are there a number of times as head of communication that you will get letters? Like, are there the number of times that one needs to write to an organization and then one needs to stop when there is no response or reaction? Why I'm asking this question is that sometimes you write to either government agencies or any institutions and you don't get response. And someone like me, I am consistent with that issue, especially if it's something that is pressing to me. So I do not know whether maybe after writing once or twice without response, whether it is wrong. So I'm trying to know from the corporate and communication managers, is there a number of times a letter comes in, even if you are ignoring it, that it becomes a concern that the writer, is not a serious person or something like that?
Okay, that's an interesting question. I think the letters, is it mostly because if it's is it like for a job, or is it for a proposal, or is it a press inquiry? What sort of letter?
Yes, proposals, contracts, engagements, maybe ongoing communications, several aspects of them.
Okay, so if it's for contract, what you need to do is you need to find out from the company what the process is for, submitting proposals and tenders. So they have every organization, they've got different, they've got the checklist of what you need to do, tendering processes. So you just need to find out, because otherwise you might be wasting your time to just keep writing. And if once you find what you're supposed to do, then you just go ahead and do it. So like, for example, here, government organizations, the tendering process is completely different to the private sector. And even I know back in Nigeria, some organizations, they want you to bring in like 3 suppliers or even more, different processes. So you need to just find out how. But I know what you mean. Like, what if you don't have anyone there to ask, what are the processes? So maybe a different tactics to this is, if you haven't heard from them, maybe you go back and say, okay, I've written several times. What are your terms and conditions? What are your procedures for doing certain things? Can you let me know? Try that. And I don't know if people have that on their website. Maybe go through the procurement managers to find out, what you need to do, the different people they have there. So just try that approach. But I think if you've written so many times, try other places.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Then another question is, how you said something about we should learn to ask questions. My question is, how do we ask questions? As you can see, I ask a lot of questions. In fact, you can use me as a specimen.
Exactly.
Do I know how to ask questions?
Exactly. So so you know how to ask questions. So that's perfect. You've already gone to check my LinkedIn page. So the same thing, if you're going to look out for an organization, go to their page and find out. They like to hear when you go to an interview, you've got a list of questions to ask them. I've been in an interview and it was just 10 minutes. And I was like, what? 10 minutes? How can I be in an interview for just 10 minutes? I mean, that's how we are as human beings, like 10 minutes. And I said, no, that's not enough. So I started asking questions and questions, and I managed to move the interview up until about 30 minutes at least. But I know they had made up their mind in 10 minutes. Yeah, they hired me, but for me, I just felt that 10 minutes was too short. I needed to ask questions. So organizations definitely like you to ask questions, and especially when you go on and say, oh, I can see that your financial records say this, or your annual report, or I can see that you're into this corporate social responsibility, you're helping women in the village to empower them. Just touch on those different things when you're asking questions. And for interviews, for example, it's always important to find out why the job is vacant. That is always very important. Remember, it's a two-way thing. I know it shouldn't be an employer's market. It's a two-way thing. But most times people are desperate for jobs. But remember, there are some places you might not fit into the culture. So you need to also ask them, why is this vacant? Oh, they might say, oh yeah, we've had like 4 people in this role, and after every month, after 6 months, they're out. Red flag. Who wants to walk into that? So just ask them questions, because it's a two-way thing. But you're doing great with your questions, Uzo. So keep it
Thank
up.
you, ma'am. The final one, the last
Okay.
one. Do you use AI in your written communication?
I love that. I just went to one of the big financial services companies. They had an open evening a few weeks ago, and the topic was about AI. Especially, I'm trying to remember what it's called now. Oh my gosh, I've forgotten. So most organizations is creeping in now gradually. So the organizations I'm working for and work for, there's now an AI process manual, which some organizations are gradually getting to say, okay, if we must use AI, this is how we're going to use it. And to be honest, now that event I went to a few weeks ago, they did say that just about a few years ago, when that big word internet, everybody said internet, then they're like, internet, what is internet? Oh no, we don't want the internet. But then we are all using the internet. We're all embracing the internet. If you're not using the internet, then you're disconnected from the whole world. Maybe it's people's great grandmothers, because you can't even say your grandparents and your great grandparents somehow know about the internet. So AI I don't want to say it's not unfortunate, but it is going to come in. No, it's not Chat GPT. There's something else. It's called. It's I'll find it. I'll try and remember. So that's that's what's is the way forward. So now all the IT people, cybersecurity, all of them, they're all trying to come up with, the different ways to use AI safely. So because just the way the internet is so bad, I mean, there's some really downsides of using the internet. The same way AI is even going to be more scary, as they highlighted, because you can do anything. You can create a person, you can impersonate, you can do anything with AI. So they're also writing, the ways to counter the negative sides of it, just the way we have negative sides of internet. So I'm still in the back burner of I'm not an early adopter of AI yet, but the organizations are gradually getting to that point, because for me, I'm a creative person. I want to just use my brain and be creative. But the truth is, we are moving into the AI world, and like they highlighted in that event, the legal industry, they've got like piles and piles of papers. So in that sort of industry, transferring the data, because AI has to work on what you have. You can't just make up something. It has to be based on something. So if you have all the documents on your system, what AI will do will help you compress it, help you bring out the necessary sections you want in your document. So there's a lot of benefits. So I'm getting there gradually. I'm not there yet. I don't use ChatGPT, but I'm sure most organizations are heading there, and they're also coming up with policies that will guide and guard people from the negative sides of it.
I think that at the end of the day, that people like you who are creative writers will always be fantastic, and will survive out there, because AI, like you said, just picks random things that are already existing and then put it together for you. So, but if you're organic like the way you are, you have an advantage. So we will be learning to be like you, but some of us are not good writers, so we can always fall back to AI. Thank you very much for answering my questions, ma.
You're welcome. So, any other questions? I'll just go back to my presentation quickly. Not that I have anything major there. And then we can wrap up.
Let me ask one question.
Okay, is that Professor Anyadike?
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay, you said you talked about the last event. You said every one of us, depending on the occasion of the events, we all have the butterfly, and we are like, oh, how am I going to get through it? So can you share a little bit? How did you get through
it? Good question.
You.
So I reminded myself that you have to remind yourself, like, how did you get here? I always ask myself, how did I get here? And for that particular event, there were so many hurdles that I was recommended for that event. So first of all, I said, okay, you are recommended. Okay, if you're recommended, then that means you're good. And most of us struggle with imposter syndrome. You just think that, oh, you're not good enough, or, but we all are great. And then I reminded myself that the different topics I spent over 3 months putting that presentation together, writing it, creating different worksheets, different things for people to work on. And I had examples. So I had to just remind myself that, yeah, I can do it, I'm good enough. Because with each event, they get bigger. Some of them can be with completely different people, different industries, and you're just like, oh my goodness, how am I going to speak to these what you think big bosses? But then remind yourself that for you to be there, you have the skill, you have the knowledge. For you to be called, you have that knowledge, you know what you're doing. So I just reminded myself that, these are people, and, I've been recommended to come and talk to them. And I've gone through all their screening processes, the requirements, and everything. I sent my presentation ahead of time. I had everything they wanted. So why would I have butterflies in my tummy? Why? So, and of course, icebreakers are very good. If you're nervous, if you have the icebreaker, we are all human beings. Once you ask that question, everybody starts contributing. And another thing that helped was when you have an event, obviously face to face, because sometimes online is a bit difficult. I got there early and I started my own networking beforehand, speaking to people. So by the time I got on stage, I was already familiar with like a quarter of the people, because that particular event, we had over 100 people in person. So I already spoken to more than 20, 30 people. So by the time I got on stage, I already had, instant allies who were there with me. So that's how I've learned to overcome the butterflies. And um, I don't know how old some people are here, but I remember watching Pretty Woman, and there was a senator in that movie, and there's a little boy that met him in the lift, and he said, I think the little boy asked him the question that you just asked me, and he said, "Oh, I get nervous and I hold the pin." So he showed him the pin, office pin, and he just plays with it. I think it must have been office pin, and that's how he gets through his. So we all have our different ways. We just need to find it, but you just know, like I said, your voice needs to be heard. For you to be called for something, that means you know your stuff. That means you know what you're doing there, and then you just go for it. Does that help, Prof?
Thank you very much. Thank you.
You're
Yes.
welcome. Okay. As I'm back on my screen, I'm just going to move quick. There's nothing left to do, really. I just want to say thank you for this opportunity. And before we go, I've got one last assignment for you. So as I've said, thank you now. I'll stop sharing my screen so I can see you all. So one last assignment is, what are some of the steps you plan to take to achieve your written communication goals, or verbal, written, because I think most of you are concerned about your written and verbal communications goals. What are some steps you plan to take to achieve your written or verbal communication goals? If you put them in the chat, so I can hold you accountable when you come and connect with me on LinkedIn, so that I know some of you are still here. I can see we're still 18, well, minus myself and Prof. 18 of you are still here. Can I see in the chat what you plan to do to achieve your communication goals? I'm going to put mine in the chat, and I want to see yours too, please. So I'm going to read more. I'll just keep reading and reading. Read some more. And another thing that really helps, if you are, whatever profession you are in, try and, if you want to be certified, then feel free. I can't see anybody. Have we gone to bed now? Have you fallen asleep? When I got this brief, I was told it's between 8 and 10, so nobody should be sleeping. Are we still awake? I can't see anything in the chat. Okay, Prof said read more. Is it only Prof that is awake? Oh, good. Everybody's waking up. Stanley said, as in, oh, yes, so no, not in this platform. Yes, or to what? Yes, or to more reading. So if you take away your O's, this is kind of a professional platform. You reserve the yesos for when you're talking, when you're speaking to your friends. So we've got another yes. Does that yes mean reading? Then Nimrod said, read more and get to know people. Okay. Engineering Express said, listen for correct pronunciation of words from Google or great movies. Okay. And then you, okay, read more books on human relations, psychology, practicing my confidence over and over. Fantastic. And then Chika said, speak with confidence and assertiveness. Great. Suleiman said, to blend in with people. Okay, great. Thank you all very much for your goals going forward. Yeah, so I'm going to wrap it up now, and I hope to connect with you all on LinkedIn. I want to say a big thank you to Prof. Engineering Express, all the partners and sponsors and supporting organizations. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to wonderful young people who are aspiring to go into the world. So just, I'll say, like I said from the beginning, let no one say you can't do it. Just keep going and know your stuff, know your written stuff, speak well, say your words well, and you will succeed. So no, don't forget, no matter what language it is, speak it well. Thank you.
Thank
So
you so much. Thank you. Thank you for the awesome training. I'm sure we have each and every one of us we have been enriched. I've learned so much, and we are grateful to you. Engineer Dr. Uzo Onya is the principal investigator for this project. He was not here at the beginning when I introduced you. So I want to say thank you to my PI, Engineer Uzo Onya, for this great opportunity, and also to thank each and every one of us for this time. We look forward to having yet another section again. We pray we'll have a section with you, my lovely sister. We'll have a section with you again so we can learn from your wealth of experience, because I'm sure everyone here, we don't really want this to end. It's just that we have to wrap it up because we know you're a very busy person. So I also thank every member of the team that is here. Mr. Pata, thank you so much for all you do, and all the participants. So we look forward to yet another time tomorrow. And I think I will call upon the principal investigator, Engineer Uzonya, to wrap up officially this section if you're still online.
Prof, thank you very much. You've already wrapped it up. Thank you, Madam Ngozi, for a wonderful presentation and for interacting with us. Pardon my numerous questions. And I wasn't asking for the coppers, to be honest. I was asking for myself. I was being selfish because I noticed that you are very good at what you are doing. So I needed to learn to improve myself before the coppers catch up with me. So thank you for delivering to us, and we are grateful on behalf of our partners, the Royal Academy and Lloyd's Registered Foundation, and NYSC and Coren and everybody that we're working with. We sincerely thank you for creating this wonderful time to interact with us. This is an ongoing arrangement. In fact, this is the pilot phase. So we are not done with you yet. Once we can create another enabling environment, we'll also reach out to you through our director, Professor Anyadike, so that she can get us you on board. Please, thank you, and God bless you for this wonderful presentation and interaction. Thank you, ma'am.
my pleasure always. So I look forward to seeing you all on LinkedIn. So have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye. Please, for the participants, if you have not registered on the Engineering Express website, please quickly do so and make sure you fill the attendance form for today. We look forward to seeing you same time tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Engineer Amina.